What's up, everybody? Ahsoka episode 7 is here, and we gotta talk about it as we near the end of the show. I will be going over spoilers in this video for the episode, so fair warning if you haven't seen the episode, come on back once you watch it, and have a great day. This was a big episode to not only set up the finale next week, but because we saw Thrawn's brain going to work. There's a really big moment that piggybacks off last week's episode that I absolutely loved. So as Ahsoka's approaching and sitting in the Purgle graveyard, Thrawn receives a file the Inquisitorius had on her from Morgan Elsbeth, and this is when he learns that Ahsoka was the apprentice of Anakin Skywalker, who he addresses as General Anakin Skywalker, and this changed everything for Thrawn and what he was planning to do with them. He not only had a great deal of respect for young Skywalker, but he also figured out during his time in the Empire that the fallen Jedi was indeed Lord Vader. But back to how he knew Anakin, this is from one of Zahn's newer Thrawn books. I didn't personally read it yet I do plan on it, but I learned of their exchange while preparing for the Ahsoka series, and it's very intriguing. So the pair, they're on a rescue mission together in order to save Padme, who's being held, and Thrawn does hear the name Ahsoka, I believe, but this takes place after Ahsoka has left the Order, and Padme doesn't mention anything other than her name and the maneuver she taught her that she uses. Also, another fun fact, this was supposed to be Ahsoka who they were saving, but in cooperating with Dave Filoni, he had other plans, so Zahn used Padme instead and mentioned Ahsoka because of how much he wanted to use the character. And anyways, so once Thrawn learns she was Anakin's apprentice, his gears start to turn, and he ends up winning the day in his eyes because he kept Ahsoka occupied long enough that they're almost done loading the Chimera. I can't wait to see him utilize his intellect in the finale next week. Another big thing I'm waiting for next week is what the hell Baylan is chasing. I mean, I was really thrown off by what happened between him and Shin this episode because it just kind of came out of left field, but also in a sense it's been foreshadowed throughout the whole series. That being Baylan and Shin parting ways for now. The way Thrawn talks about Baylan being absent from the fight makes me feel like he'll be back with the heir to the Empire next week, and now I know some creators are like, oh, it's Abeloth calling out to Baylan, but if I'm being honest here, dumbest shit I've ever heard. Someone on Twitter, who I can't remember their name, their tag right now, I'm sorry about that, but they found some text and translated it from behind Thrawn last week, and that mentioned Kujet from the Jedi Fallen Order game, and that makes a lot of sense to me because there very much seems to be a connection between the Dathomiri and the Zepho now, at least in my opinion, and Filoni has really been referencing the Jedi, both Fallen Order and Survivor games during this series, whether it be subtly or directly. Moving on to HERA's brief appearance this week, we get a pretty good scene acting-wise, especially from Mary Elizabeth Winstead, where she lays into Senator Ziono because he's an incompetent prick. He wants her to be court-martialed for going to Cetos to help Ahsoka and Sabine, but 3PO comes in and saves the day, cameo checkmark from the leaks, with some help from Leia, and now Leia didn't show up, which kind of does make sense to me. It's a lot of money on deepfake and AI voice and all that stuff that goes into the legacy characters now for just a couple minutes, but the way the show incorporates her is very impactful. I've loved seeing this stuff again because I genuinely do despise the New Republic, and the demon in me loves watching them crumble because of their incompetence. But there was a certain line where you kind of see it in Mon Mothma, portrayed by Genevieve O'Reilly, in her performance when Hera says, "We have to prepare for the worst and hope for the best," and you just see it in her facial emotions. You see she might start to think that she's really messing up here, and I think she's become too fat and satisfied, to quote Ander, because of who she's been surrounded by as Chancellor of the New Republic. It's made her weak. Now, our trio of Jedi had their hands full this episode. Sabine and Ezra ride with the Noti as Sabine mentions that Zeb is training recruits for the New Republic now, which is kind of the opposite of what I thought he was doing when he showed up in Mando Season 3. I figured that he was doing some Mission Impossible shit for Hera, but I guess he's a legit member of the New Republic, and maybe, just maybe, Callus is around too helping him. They're attacked by the Marauders and have to defend themselves and the Noti, and this is when we get to see Ezra show off his new Force karate, which he does, and it's really just kind of him using the Force push occasionally while he's doing karate, but it's like he's using the Force to dodge and stuff, which is just being attuned, and there was a really cool moment where he uses force to stop Shin's lightsaber, and the visual is wonderful. And I thought Gita Patel's direction of these fights was truly brilliant, as she brought her House of the Dragon experience with her and put it to good use. Then on Ahsoka and Huyang's side, they arrive in Peridia but are immediately ambushed by a minefield that Thrawn left, and then enemy fighters. I loved this scene, and it gave me huge Attack of the Clone vibes from Jango and Obi-Wan's space fight, and just a touch of that battle over Coruscant 2 in Revenge of the Sith. Just a quick note too here, David Tennant has been absolutely amazing as Huyang, but especially in this episode with the comedy, he had me dying laughing. It took me back to when he was roasting Sabine back in episode 2. And also, I want to once again acknowledge Kevin Kiner's brilliant score as he continues to prove he is the true heir to John Williams. Obviously, it's a huge shoe to fill. He might never, but he is, how do I say it? He's the best we're gonna get for Star Wars composing, and that's a huge compliment to him because he's been phenomenal. Much like Dave is the heir to George Lucas. All that being said, we get a big scene between Ahsoka and a hologram of Anakin as she prepares for what awaits her in Peridia. I thought this was a brilliant way to bridge his last appearance in the show and remind her that there are great threats out there, especially after she was almost killed by Baylan. And he does this. He mentions Grievous, Dooku, and even Ventress. It was really cool to see Hayden mention Ventress. Dave continues to prove he knows how to deliver fan service, but not on the surface level like Kenobi. He dives deep and he makes it meaningful, and as someone who loves that, I greatly appreciate his touch with it. We also we get a brief rematch. I say brief lightly. It was a decent sized fight between Ahsoka and Baylan, which continued to channel Kurosawa as Dave loves to do, and I love this fight. I watched Seven Samurai before this episode, and it's such a great thing to reference while watching Dave's work. I highly recommend you watch that movie. If you haven't seen it, it's streaming on Max right now. Then we finally get the reunion of Ahsoka and Ezra Bridger as the episode ends, and our heroes are together once again and ready to push on Thrawn, but will they make it in time? I'm not so sure. Thrawn is ready to go, and it seems like something or someone is getting left behind next week, if not multiple people. I really enjoyed this episode. It wasn't as good as 5 and was nowhere near 6, which is the best of the series so far in my opinion, but I don't think that's fair to compare because those are two of the best produced things since Disney took over, period. But as always, I want to know what you guys thought about the episode, so let me know what you would rate it and what you thought about it down in the comments below, and make sure you have a great day.